Welcome back to Tuesdays with Tim, the podcast that touches on all things related to brain injuries among children and those who've been impacted by my son Luke. Today's guest is Trenton Bass. Trenton, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, Trenton, of course, I know your mom, Missy, and we've talked a little bit, and I'll look forward to talking about your parents' nonprofit. But before that, take me back to what life was like for you as a child.
Oh boy. So I am from a small town in Minnesota, right kind of by Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Town of, less than 800 people. I grew up in town. I have two older brothers, Colton and Dalton. They are 6 and 8 years older than me. And so, I was always the kind of little annoying brother growing up. But it was awesome. I loved growing up in a small town. Nothing beats that. From running around, riding my bike with friends, playing town tag, playing home run derbies, all that kind of fun stuff. So I, always enjoyed being outside ever since I was a little kid. Um, Growing up in a competitive family, usually that was playing sports. Um, and then growing up into, childhood, uh, and then kind of into high school, I was always playing sports with my friends. We were always outside playing town tag and then dunk ball. And when we got older, we were playing frisbee golf, all that kinds of fun stuff. So usually active.
And let me ask you this, Trenton. So you played a lot of sports. I assume being in Minnesota, I assume you're going to follow maybe the Vikings or the Twins. Are you a sports fan and following what goes on in Minnesota?
I am, yes, I am a sports fan. Uh, Vikings fan for sure. Used to you know, living in Minnesota, we're used to being disappointed by all of our professional sports teams, but we still call ourselves fans.
Well, I'll just say this, that your Vikings really gave my New Orleans Saints and me a lot of heartbreak because, of course, the Minneapolis Miracle a few years back in the playoffs, and then you beat us again in the playoffs in New Orleans, and I was actually there with my son, so that was a terrible experience for me. But the Vikings are looking pretty good. Well, let me take you now to life when you turned 17. Something happened to you at the age of 17, if you don't mind sharing the story.
Yeah, so my senior year of high school, it was the second game of my senior year. I was obviously super excited to be a senior. Had a lot of, obviously my buddies growing up. I was a role model to them. And so, just getting to play my senior year, as I was super excited for, and they were excited, to kind of play under me too. And first game of the year was kind of a blowout. Second game of the year, we knew we were going to be good, but it was against one of our rivals and one of our toughest teams. And so it was really going to be a test to see, how good our team was going to be this year and, how far we were going to go. And ended up being a four-quarter game. Up and down the field both ways. We played nine-man football, and so I played offensively and defensively. So running back on offense and defense, I kind of played, that safety uh, corner outside linebacker position.
Right.
And late in the fourth quarter, with about a minute and a half left in the game, we were up 28-20, and they were kind of driving on us. They were on their own, well, probably 35-yard line. It was third and 10. I'm playing I'm playing corner, and there's a run that comes my way. I go around my blocker, and I'm coming across the field now, so going towards their sideline, and the running back is coming to or from my left, and I make a tackle that I have made hundreds of times before. When I look at the game film, um, nothing looks nothing looks wrong or bad about the tackle. It wasn't a hard tackle. It was just the most normal tackle. But as soon as I made that tackle, I instantly knew something was different. I didn't feel the force of the impact. I didn't feel myself fall to the ground. I didn't feel the completion of the tackle. I was just kind of laying there. I was laying face down on the ground. My mouth guard was in my mouth. My chin strap had slidden up, and it's a we're in the heat of the game, right? This is some of the biggest plays of the game right now. It's fourth down at this point. They gain about 5 yards. It's 4th and 5. My teammates are coming up to me, like, good tackle, like, let's go, like, come on, get up. Uh, I was moving. Um, and eventually the coaches came up to me and were asking me questions, like what happened, what hurt, stuff like this. And I couldn't tell them. Only thing I could say was, I can't move anything. Are you in pain? No, nothing hurts. I just can't move anything. And it was, in that moment that you'd think that you'd be so panicked and just, crying or just freaking out. And I just had this calm over me that I truly can't explain. It was I believe it was just such a God thing, that, to give me that peace in that moment. Um, and my brother was a coach on the field, where he's up in the crow's nest, and my dad and my parents are in the field, and my dad watching my two little brothers. He's a football player. Um, in the stands, sees the tackle happen. So Dalton, my brother, that's the coach, goes up to my dad and goes, "Hey, it's Trenton on the field," and my dad goes, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "What's wrong?" It just looks like a normal tackle. He's like, "I don't know. He's not moving. He's just laying there." They both go down there, and they're talking to me, asking those questions, and you know, paralysis was not on anyone's mind at this point because it was like I said, such a normal tackle. And you know, from there, I went off and got stretchered off into the hospital, and got the CT scan, and yeah, broke my C5, C6 vertebrae, and I'm a complete quadriplegic. So,
Mm. So I guess what I find interesting is that you remember all the details, 3rd and 10, 4th and 5. And, at the time that it happened, did you feel like you were aware of what you didn't have? Were you aware of those surroundings, those around you, what was happening to you?
um, for surely not. Well, first off, I was just not um, in tune with, what a spinal cord injury is or means. And so I was very much just, in the heat of the game. And, an injury like this was nowhere on my radar. Not only have I not heard of this happening to anyone I know or just any serious injury. And so when I'm in the heat of the game, I'm in the game and I'm not worried about anything. Actually, when I went to the hospital right away, one of the first questions I asked was, did we win the game?
Mhm. So after this happened, you're in the hospital, you find out the diagnosis, then take me to the next, couple of months, what all entailed for you as far as whether from therapies and just your frame of mind.
Yeah, my story got really big with social media, kind of that small town uh, community aspect of it. It just replicated to all the surrounding communities. And so I think my Facebook page at the time had some like 20,000 followers. And when I was in the hospital in Sioux Falls, I was constantly surrounded by people, family, friends, classmates, teammates, and then just people I don't even know, uh, extended friends and of family and stuff like that. And so I was, never alone. I was constantly being overwhelmed with support and prayer. And no, that was awesome. But then when I transitioned into kind of my rehab hospital, I went to Craig in Denver, Colorado. And
Mhm.
that's, 12 hours away from my home. And that was kind of a hard decision to make as a 17-year-old. Um, I was used to having all of that support. I relied on, you know, the friendly banter with my friends and joking around and, talking about their football season and stuff like that. And I knew that was all going to come to an end when I went out there. But ultimately, it was the best decision that I made for myself. Craig, I can't say enough good things about. I have not gained anything functionally back from the surgery, but from what I've gained independence wise from therapy is crazy. I never would have ever guessed that I would be where I'm at. I went from laying in a hospital bed, not even be able to feed myself supper to, you know, driving to work and going to college and being able to dress myself and do transfers and ultimately, probably being uh, 90 to 95% independent. It's just nothing that I really would have guessed could come out of this.
Well, I think that just those that are listening today are number one, incredibly impressed with your frame of mind, your attitude. I can just tell that you have this positivity about you. And you mentioned, a God thing on the field, and obviously God is at work with you every day. And a lot of credit, of course, goes to your parents, obviously. But take me now to here you are at 24 years old, seven years after you said you're, almost completely independent. What are some of the things that you would like to share with others when it comes to something like this that has happened to you? What have you learned from it? What is your perspective on life now?
Yeah, I would say the one of the biggest things I've learned through this is, um, what do I want to say here? I think the biggest thing that I've gotten of this is right away, I asked, the question of like, why did this happen? Now, not so much as like, why me and not someone else, but like, you know, why, why did this happen? And, right away, my brain went to, God, why did you do this to me? Like, is it is it the direction and the path my life was headed? Is it something that I did? And so that was something that I just kept thinking about, like what did I do? Or like where was my life going that God wanted to intervene? And what I've learned is that's completely false. That is a wrong way of thinking because God does not do bad things to people. God does not punish people for their actions. Um, you know, God uses these situations and these troubles and these hardships that we go through for his glory, right? So no, he did not break my neck playing football. That was my choice. I had the free will to play football. Accidents happen. Accidents happen to everyone. Um, but he's using this, he wants to use these hardships in our life for his glory. And so just choosing, you know, to have a positive attitude and a positive outlook on life every day, and to know that, God can use me and God is going to use me in ways that he might have never used me before this happened.
Wow, it's very powerful, and I certainly can relate to being used by God. Absolutely. Um, you mentioned work. What do you do for a living?
I am a mechanical engineer for CNH for Case New Holland.
Mm. And so for you, if you could just give us a day in the life.
Yeah, so I'm still living at home right now. Eventually I'll move out of my parents' house, hopefully sooner rather than later. Um, but getting up in the morning, um, dressing myself. So I am like I said, C5, C6 quadriplegic, and so I can move my shoulders around, I can move my biceps, but my triceps don't work, and my hands don't work. And then I have no movement or feeling anywhere below kind of, my upper chest. Um, and so, kind of dressing and stuff like that. I drive. I'm independent with driving. Drive to work. Um, go to work. I enjoy my community that I have with friends. Going to life group, or if not, just hanging out. Um, Hanging out. I enjoy. Still enjoy going to sporting events. But other than that, not a whole lot right now.
You know, your story is certainly one that I think everyone needs to hear because we all have a choice, don't we? When something bad happens to us, do we feel sorry for ourselves or do we try to make an impact? And here you are in a great job and have such a positive outlook. And I'm sure that there are moments, I'm sure more than moments, where it's a struggle for you, but you persevere. And so much credit goes to you, to your parents, and certainly God using you. And I just think it's a story that we all need to hear because it's very easy for us to feel sorry for ourselves for whatever reason, whether it's my situation or anyone listening today. And you obviously are a bright light in that small town in Minnesota. And so I'm just so honored to be able to talk to you and look forward to keeping in touch and talking about the Vikings, talking about the Saints and the sports world. You had mentioned earlier about your parents' nonprofit, which is called Game Plan for Life for Hope. Game Plan for Hope. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like I said, when my story got, really big, we were so blessed with, prayers and community, and what came with that too was donations. I mean, we got donated so much equipment while I was out at Craig. And, as my dad was kind of picking all of this stuff up, well, one, he didn't know what I was going to need, but two, knew that I wasn't going to need all of this. And, right away was thinking, what can I do with this? Like, I want to pay this forward because this has just been given to us. So that was really right away, while I was still at Craig, was kind of the idea behind Game Plan for Hope. And so 2 years later in 2019 is when it really started. And it was just that, you know, we saw how blessed we were to with what we had received through this. And we saw families that didn't have that. They didn't have the community support. They didn't have, kind of that small town, all that kind of stuff. And
Support.
so, yeah, kind of that overwhelming support and of community, and not only you know obviously this is a financial burden, but kind of all of the physical support too, of what to do with your house when you get back, and wheelchairs and shower chairs and all that stuff that you don't think of. But another big thing of it too was you know this happened in the blink of an eye. No one was expecting it. And from the first seconds that my accident happened to 3 weeks to 3 months later, it was went by in the blink of an eye, right? And there's no one to tell you how to go about that. And there's so many unknowns. And so that's where we really want to step in and help people, is to bridge that gap of when you're in the chaos of life and you're going a million miles an hour and there's no guidance and no direction on what to do and what to not to. That's really where we want to help people to go through situations like that and help out where we can.
That's wonderful. I assume when you watch the Vikings, for example, and you see someone make a tackle and they don't get up, whether it's a concussion, we all know how violent the sport is. What does that do for you when you're watching that?
I don't blame football for my injury. It's something that I would still let my kids play. I don't think people should shy away from it. My outtake is, accidents happen. Like I said, this was not a super nasty hit. I didn't make a wrong decision or anything like that. If you watch the tape, it is the most normal thing that ever happened. And like I said, accidents happen. But yeah, I mean, when I watch football now and I see some of these hits that go on, you're like, oh my goodness, that is violent and brutal. And it just makes me, or I guess I'm just more aware of what can happen. And I just it keeps my eyes a little more in tune to stuff like that.
Hmm. I guess my last question would be this. What would you tell moms and dads that have children with a brain injury, or just those that are just listening today and they're healthy, the outlook that you have? What could you share, sort of one good piece of advice for everyone listening?
Um, I would say, uh, life is difficult. No matter what your situation is, you can never compare your situation to someone else's, because the only thing you know is your own life. And life is difficult sometimes, and uh, it's okay not to be okay. But it's never okay to give up. And we're not meant to do life or go through life alone. And so, reach out to those if you need help, or reach out to a friend if you think they need help. Um, but one thing that I've really gotten out of this is, we can't choose our situation in life. But one thing you can choose is your attitude every day. You can choose to have, put a smile on your face and pick up the pieces when it's difficult, not only for yourself, but that'll help the others around you too. And so that's been kind of my motto since I've been in the hospitals. Just take life on one day at a time because that's really all you can do.
Well, Trenton, you are an inspiration, and I know the impact that you are having in your hometown, but all over the country now. And it's just it's been a blessing for me to talk to you and visiting with your mom and very special family. And I know that you have touched everyone listening today, and I look forward to keeping in touch and sharing stories about the improvements that we're making and how you're getting along in life. And keep up the good work and keep up the great fight. Thank you so much for joining us today, Trenton.
Hey, I appreciate it. It was good talking to you, and yeah, hopefully we can have good conversations to come.
Great. Take care.
You too.
Thank you for joining us on Tuesdays with Tim. If you found today's episode helpful, please be sure to follow and share so others can find support. For additional resources and support, visit teamlukehopeforminds.org. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. If you have a story you would like to share or a topic you would like for us to cover, please reach out. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Together, we can continue to raise awareness and support for families caring for children with brain injuries. Until next time, take care and keep fighting like Luke.